In today's show, we're going to use PowerShell to create Active Directory users. We're going to show you the simple way to do it, how to get connected, and then we're also going to, at the end, show you how to use a CSV file to feed it in there so you can set not only the users, but all those different properties about the users. Works okay for production, but it works great when you're building out test VMs. There's also a special twist to today's video. But first, here's our intro. Hi, my name is Shane Young with Bold Zebras. Those guys. And today's show is not from me. So we're going to try something new. We're going to let one of my good buddies, fellow MVP Todd Klindt, actually walk you through and do this particular video. So what I'd love to hear from you is, how do you feel about someone else showing up on my channel? Do you care? Probably not. Or does it really offend you because you tune in just to see this pretty face? Either way, I need the feedback whether or not you want to have Todd do future videos. So leave me notes below or tweet me or any of those type of fun things and let me know. All right? So I'm going to hand it over to Todd.
Hi, my name is Todd Klindt, and today we're going to talk about how to create users with PowerShell from a CSV file. But don't worry, we will start with the basics of getting connected to your AD from PowerShell, how to create just one user, and then we'll have the big finish of using a CSV file to create all the users and all the various properties about them that you need. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? It does. Let's get started. The first thing that you need to do is you need to have the PowerShell module installed that has all the command lists that we need. And that module is the Active Directory module, and it is part of the Remote Server Administration Tools, or RSAT. And so if you are on a Windows server, and it's not a directory domain controller, you can add that with Add-WindowsFeature and add RSAT. So let's go over here to my window. I've got the ISE up. I hope you all can see it. I hope the font is good enough. Let's give you guys a little bump. There you go, another bump, no extra charge. Okay, so let's look at that. First thing that I always do when I open up PowerShell, besides stretch a little bit, get my fingers loosened up, practice my jazz hands, I always start transcript. If you haven't done this already, this is a diary that PowerShell keeps of all the amazing things that you type into PowerShell and all of the output that PowerShell gives you back. This is great as you're trying to noodle through things and figure them out. You can come back the next day and figure out what you've done. I do this all the time when I'm in PowerShell, whether I know what I'm doing or not. So I'll start out with start transcript, and we'll have that here. The next thing that I do is I want to see if this is installed on the machine that I'm on. I am not on a domain controller. I am on a Windows server, but it is not a domain controller. So let's see if I've already installed all these things. So I'm going to do get Windows feature -name RSAT. And that's going to collect some data. It scrolled up a little bit. Let's make this window a little larger here. So we can see all of the remote server administration tools are here. And this little guy here, RSAT-AD-PowerShell, that is the one that has the pieces that we need. And this installs the Active Directory module. And again, this is not a domain controller, so I can do this from any server that I want. So I could do that, and that is this line right here. I'm not going to, though, because part of this demonstration is I'm going to do amazing things in PowerShell. And then I'm going to show you what I did in the interface, Active Directory Users and Computers, or ADUC. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this other line right here. And what I'm going to say is install all of the AD tools, which is this feature right here, and then all of its sub-features. So that gets me PowerShell and the other tools. If you're just using PowerShell, you don't need to do that, but I'm going to do it so that I have ADUC so I can show you how everything works. So I am right now logged into this machine as a local administrator, and you can see up in the corner there I have my PowerShell open with an administrator prompt. To install features, you need to be a local administrator and have this administrative prompt. To use them, you do not need that. You just need a regular PowerShell prompt, and you need to be logged in as a user that has permission to create users in your Active Directory. But since I'm adding this feature as well, I've got a little elevated thing. So we will let this installation run for a couple of minutes. Okay, we got our exit code is success. I like how that works. So now we can look at the module and see what, well, first let's go back in and let's verify our handiwork here. And we can see now that all of those tools are installed. They've got the checkbox. So let's look what's in here. We're going to do get command with the module, Active Directory, and see what commands are in there. Whole bunch of them. And so the world is your oyster with this. There's a whole bunch of things in here. I'm only going to cover one, and that is a new AD user. So the whole reason that we're here, the whole reason you've suffered through so much of this video already, and the reason you haven't left is new AD user. This is the commandlet that creates new users in your Active Directory. So whenever I'm using a new commandlet, I always have two steps. Number one is I do help to make sure that the commandlet is the thing that I'm looking for, and then I up arrow and I add dash examples to get an idea how to use the commandlet. So let's look and make sure that this is the thing that we want. New AD user, name, string, whatever. Yep, that looks good. But you'll notice at the bottom I've kind of got this little nastygram that says get help cannot find the help files for this commandlet on this computer. Oh no! Thankfully, I know the solution for this, and if you read through the rest of that message, it gives it to you. But we can do this update help. And this is something you can run early and often on all of your computers, Windows Server, Windows workstations, all of that. And it will go out to the internet and see if Microsoft has updated the help files for the modules that are installed on your system, and it will get them for you. So it's going to go out and do that now for everything on the system, not just Active Directory. And now that I mentioned Windows systems, you can also do all of this on Windows 10 as well as Windows Server. And when you do that, you need to install a bit of software on Windows 10. You need to download the Remote Server Administration Toolkit, RSAT, for Windows 10, and that is KB2693643, and install that, and then you can turn all these things on and get these same PowerShell bits. So you can do it from the comfort of your own desk. Okay, we have updated all of our help. You'll notice that some failed to update, but that's okay. The important one did not. So let's go run our help again and see all of the glorious help that we've got. There we go. So we've got some methods. It explains what's going on. Words, words, words. Creates a new Active Directory computer or a new Active Directory user. That's exactly what we were looking for. So let's go ahead and do the next bit, and that is the examples bit. So now I'm going to see kind of what Microsoft suggests. Every PowerShell command that Microsoft puts out should have examples with it. And so this kind of gives us an idea how to do things. I'm not a big fan of these particular examples. Luckily for you guys, I'm here and I'll give you better ones. So this is the commandlet that we want. It does the things that we want. Let's get to creating some users. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that I do not have any of this already done. So I'm going to go in here and fire up Active Directory users and computers. Here it is in my domain. And you'll notice everything, here's all my users, and we'll keep this open. This is like the cooking shows. I did not bake the cake in another oven. It's actually, we're going to actually watch the cake get baked live here on your screen. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a user, and it's just this simple. New user, test one. That was pretty simple. If we come over here and if we refresh ADUC, come over here, there's our guy. That was it. We're done. Thank you for joining. No, it gets much more complicated than that, but it is really that simple. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And if we want to find out whether things really worked or not, we can do that in PowerShell as well with get AD user. And these are all of the users on our farm. If you just run get AD user by itself, it's going to ask you for a filter. We want them all, so I did the whole double quote asterisk here and then just to select the name. But there's our thing that we created now. Not very helpful, not very useful, but we can take it up a little farther. So now we can add some parameters with this, and I got all of these parameters. You can get them one of two ways. You can do the get help and you can see them there, or one of the things that I do when I'm learning a new command is type the command out, type a dash, and then just keep hitting tab. So if I come over here and I type new AD user, it fills it out for me. I type a dash and I just keep hitting tab, and it walks me through all the parameters, and I can see all the things. I'm like, oh, authentication, cannot change password. That's where I got all of these. But I'm going to demonstrate these right here. So this takes my user, creates another user, test3, and assigns its city, its state, and its description. So if I come over here to ADUC again and refresh my OU, there we have it. It's that simple. Now, not all of your users' attributes are available in the commandlet. There's a whole bunch of them, and again, they show up if we do the get help. It will show you all the ones that we do have in here. So this is, employee ID, employee number. Come back here, you little devil. All these things, these are the ones that are built into the commandlet, but there is functionality for ones that are not inside of the commandlet. And you use the -other attributes parameter for that. So now I'm going to create a user called test4. I'm going to use all the same attributes that I used on test3, except I'm going to add 2 more. I'm going to add the title and the email address. So let's go ahead and make test4, give it a home. Come over here, refresh ADUC. There's test4, also handsome, maybe a little more handsome than test3. And if I look at properties, I can see there's the email address. And if I look in, I don't have the thing, but I could see the title as well if I have the advanced stuff on, advanced features. So that got complicated in a hurry. So now we come down here, properties, object, not object, attribute editor, title, there it is, janitor, right where we left it. So if you have other attributes that you want to fill out as part of your onboarding process or whatever, if they don't show up in the actual commandlet, you can use other attributes. Now, before a user can log in, they need to have a password, and so that parameter is account password. The thing that I'm going to show you right now is a really, really bad idea, and that is putting your password in plain text right here. I'm only doing this as a demonstration. There are much more secure ways to do this, but this kind of gets the point across. It creates a user with that as the password. So I can come in here, I can run that. And now test user 5 exists. These things are multiplying like rabbits over here. And you can't tell, now I didn't add the handsome and all of that to this one, but it has a password that is set. But you'll notice if you look at all of these users, and I don't know if you can see them very well, but they all have the little down arrow. That means these users are not enabled. They can't actually log in. Now, before I set the password, that kind of made sense because they didn't know the password, but that still wasn't enough. I set the password, they still can't log in. Why is that? Well, the commandlet has a parameter for that so that you can create a bunch of accounts without them actually being logged in immediately. So then when you need them, you can go in and run PowerShell to enable them. But if you do want to have them enabled immediately when you create them, there's a parameter for that, enabled. So let's try that. Let's run that. Uh-oh, we got a nasty gram from PowerShell. What does PowerShell have to say about that? The password does not meet the length, complexity, or history requirement of the domain. Well, that's true because the password doesn't actually exist. So in order for the user to be able to log in and do all those things, you need to set enabled to true and give it a good password. So when I create user 6 with this line, it's just like when I created user 5, test 5, except I've put enabled -true at the end. So if I run that, now test 6 has been created. Let's go in here. And there's test 6, no sad little down arrow. Now you can log in as test 6. So we know how to do these one-off ones. That is great. But where the power really comes from is scripting all of this and making all of this happen in bulk numbers. And I'm going to show you how to do that next. So there's a few things you need to have in place first. First is you need to have some sort of input file. Now there's a bunch of ways to do that. When I do it for my test environments, I do it with a CSV file, and I have that CSV file right here. So let's run this. And this is just a regular old CSV file that I threw together. I put some users in it, and then I put headings in it for my CSV file when I bring it in. First name, last name, SAM account name, which is the login name, the title, the manager, and then the OU if I want to put them into an OU. So that is the file that I'm going to use. We'll stick that over there. What am I going to do with it? Well, I have this script over here that I call create Users Dot Ps1. Now, this is a script that I wrote a few years ago. I've got a better updated version of this, but I couldn't find it before I recorded this video. But this will get you through the important parts. Okay, so what do I need to get this to run? I need to make sure that the Active Directory module is imported and running. And if it already is, if I'm trying to install it and it's already there, silently continue. PowerShell, I don't want to hear about it. Just go ahead and do it. I need to give all of these accounts passwords, so I've set a default password. Again, horrible, horrible security practice. When I wrote this, it was for a test environment, so it didn't matter. Nobody could get to it. But you're gonna want to do something a little more mature here when you script your things. The next thing, when I'm setting the user principal name, I need to have the domain. So this piece of PowerShell here gets the domain from that I'm logged in as, so that I can append that to my users. Right here, I import the CSV file that has all my users in it, and you can see that's the file over there that I'm doing. And of course, I could add a parameter. I actually have this written out now as a function, so it does ask you for a a file and all that, but you can hard code it in here if you want to. And now that we've got everything set up, we're actually going to do the thing that we want to do. When I was creating this, for my test account, there were some accounts that were service accounts and some that were bosses and things like that. So they didn't have a manager attribute in the CSV file. And so we can see, like, an example of one is Bill right here. He doesn't have one. Brian doesn't have one because John reports to Brian, things like that. And so I had to write this out in a couple of different ways. Now, I've since refined this a little bit. This was kind of an ugly way to do it. But if the manager attribute is empty, and this manager attribute maps directly to this title in here. So when PowerShell imports this CSV file, it looks at the first row. Then when it creates the objects, it creates this as the object, the property type. So if that manager is equal to 0, so it's a service account, it's a boss or whatever, then run this bit of code. And it's just all the things that we've talked about before. The SAM account name is the username. We're going to create the first name and the last name. We're going to throw those together for the display name. We're going to take the given name and the surname and add those values. We're going to take the email address, and that's going to be the username with the DNS domain, as is the user principal name, same value there. Title, if there's a title defined, we're going to use that. We're going to enable the account so they can log in right away. We're going to set the change password at login to false, so that every time I log into my test account, I don't have to put a new password in. And then set the password never expires to true. Again, horrible security practices. And then set the account password to password. Now, one of the beauties of this particular script is I did a try-catch loop. So as I want to add more users, I could just tag them at the end of this file. And when PowerShell tried to create the users, if it already existed, it would just say, hey, I could not create the user, and it would just fail into the next one. So it didn't, I could just keep the same file, add users, just run the same file over and over. If the user.manager is not equal to false, it does the piece down here, and the only difference is it assigns that. Same otherwise, and again, if it can't find it, it already does it. I took this one step further when I created this. When I created the test environment for this, I had the need for user pictures, thumbnail photos. So after the users are created, and after it's tried to create the user, it goes through the directory and it looks to see if there's a JPEG with that user's name. And if there is, it sets that value for the user. And again, since it will error out gracefully, you can just, if you realize this after the fact, you can drop some JPEGs in, run the command, drop some more JPEGs in, run the command, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's go to where that is all at. That is in my documents folder here. So I have the PowerShell script over here, which is the one over there that we've seen, create users, which is the one that we're looking up at the top, and the users.csv. So let's go ahead and run this and create us a whole bunch of users in Active Directory. And so the way that I've wrote this, it just kicks them all out as it's creating them. I don't try to handle the output any. You can see that we created a whole bunch of users. It took no time at all. If I go over here and I refresh my OU, there they all are: Adam, Alan, Bruce, Daryl, David. All of my users are in here. Saul. And it was just that quick, and they're already used. And again, since the way that I've written this, if I try to run it again, it's just going to tell me that the users already exist, and it's just going to fail out gracefully. If I can get the cursor where I want it to. So it's going to say it already exists. So That's a nice little piece there. So there you go. There you have all the things that you need to create one user or a whole bunch of users in Active Directory with PowerShell. Again, you can go to the comments below and get all the links. You can go to toddklindt.com/PoshIntroAD to get all the scripts and all those kind of things. If you have any feedback for this, leave me a comment. Let me know you loved it, you didn't love it. You probably did love it. If there are other pieces of this you would like to hear me talk about, different aspects of creating users or adding them to groups or whatever, let me know. I'm pretty easily swayed, so if you've got something cool you want me to do, throw it in the comments below. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Oh, well, hello there. Are you still watching? That is awesome. Wasn't that a great video? I amaze myself sometimes even. Hey, when I recorded the original video, I had like a great 2.5 minute intro. It was great storytelling. I was building anticipation. It had intrigue. It had mystery. It had fun. But then that big meanie, Shane, he edited it out, and so I feel like you guys really were robbed. There was some good stuff in there, but most importantly there was stuff about me. Well, not about me so much as how you can get a hold of me. So if you're still watching and you want to get a hold of me and tell me how great the video was or how bad Shane is or any of those kind of things, you can email me, todd@toddklindt.com. And hit me up on Twitter @ToddKlindt, or you can just go to my website, toddklindt.com, and leave me a note there. And this can be our little secret because there is no way that Shane's attention span will allow him to watch the entire video here, despite the fact that he would learn a great deal if he did. So again, leave the comments below, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you in the next video.
Me again. Hey, just a reminder, if you want to subscribe, click on my face over here. Or if you want to work together or just need a friend, hit me up over here. Or if really what you wanted was more PowerShell videos, it's probably it. They are over here. All right, thanks. See ya. Somebody stop the recording.